Well, hi, good morning, and welcome to this week's episode of Make More Money Now. I'm Gerry Black, marketing writing coach, and today, Patti Pokorchak, the small business sales coach, is going to be taking the wheel, and she's going to be talking about a skill that can either make you a lot of money or lose you a lot of money. So I'll hand it over to Patti.
Thank you, Gerry. I like to say that learning how to negotiate is a life skill because it can also save you a lot of money. Because some of the phrases I'll be sharing with you, you can use whether you're the buyer or the seller. I have to admit that I am now, I cannot just buy something without like a high ticket item, something over $500. I cannot buy that without asking, so what else can you do for me? Is that your best offer, Gerry? Really?
Yeah, that makes them squirm, right?
It does. I mean, even, I bought a sofa and it's like the delivery's $100. Seriously, like I live so close. Like, what can you do? And it's like, okay, so I got $50 off, right? But that pays for a nice lunch out, right? So I'm just
It's
gonna.
funny you should mention that because when I think about it, back to whenever I had that question, it usually came up. If it came up towards the end of the month, I was a lot more motivated to see what I could do, based on what my numbers were that month.
That's right. That's right. I mean, don't forget, especially if you're, commission sales, is that the more you negotiate, the higher your commission. So it's, the high and what people don't realize is that when you're negotiating price, every dollar you give up is pure profit, right? Assuming, that you're in a profitable mode anyways. So I always liken negotiation. And again, it depends on who you're negotiating with. If you're talking into enterprise and you've dealt with the decision maker and they say, okay, here, I gotta hand you over to procurement or purchasing, or in the government, they call it material management. And these are professional buyers. And so they are going to be a lot tougher on you than, say, Gerry or I, because we're just amateurs. But as always, I liken it to like a ping pong game, because you're kind of going, all right, so what do you think of that offer? Well, what else can you do for me? Well, how about this? And it's just a back and forth. So basically like a ping pong game. But as most of us are Netflix fans, this came from Grace and Frankie, Jane Fonda, who was a very successful businesswoman on Grace and Frankie. And she said this line is, know your bottom line, but never start there. And that is so true, because the way I always say it is have your second, your plan B and C, have that in your back pocket. Never start where you want to end. So start higher. Like if you're sort of really saying, okay, 10 grand is the minimum I will accept for this contract, well, don't start there. Start at, say, 15, for example, because you never want to leave money on the table, right? So start with your second or third best offer. And if the buyer is going, ooh, 15, that's a little steep. And again, it's a game, for professional buyers, right? It can be a bit of a game where they're going, oh, my God, what, are you out of your mind? It's a drama, right? It's just they're playing their part in a negotiation play game. But so that's why you want to take how they react, the look on their face, with a grain of salt. Okay, so that's when you go, oh, what were you thinking? What was your budget? That's where you can start, nailing them. Again, if you can help it, you never want to be the first to throw out the price. But if they're sort of saying, so tell me. So we've discussed this. Here are the specifics. You've given us proposal. So what's the bottom line? What is your offer? I say 15. Okay. They go, well, that's too high. What else can you do for me? Like, well, what are you expecting? And again, I think negotiation is the best place to answer a question with a question, right? So that's where your second or third best offer comes in. They go, well, I was expecting to pay about 10,000. You go, ooh, 10, 15. Why do we split the difference? Your second best offer is at 12 and a half. And depending again on who you're dealing with, if they're determined to grind you down to the last nickel and dime, you will know shortly, because they'll go, 10,500. It's like, oh God. So you've gone down 2.5, they've gone up 500. So you're probably gonna end at 11,000, 11,500. So, but if there's somebody who says, I'm expecting to pay 10, I think you're worth 15, but 12.5 sounds like a deal to us. And
Yeah.
that's the win-win. I don't know about you, Gerry, but I always want to have that win-win-win-win. A win for me as the salesperson, a win for the employees, a win for the supplier, and a win for the client. That we all feel like we've come out with a good deal. Isn't that when you say that's the way to go?
Yeah, I agree. I package up my services. I usually give a price range, which is kind of presenting my low and my high, and somewhere in there, it's almost like I'm pre-suggesting, if you will, that we might meet somewhere in the middle after I'm able to assess, what a particular prospect needs. But I totally agree that you do want that back and forth so that the person on the other end, particularly if they are have to answer to someone else, which can be the case, they can sort of say, hey, here's what I was able to do. Normally they charge 15,000. I got it for 12.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Which is another kind of win, as you well know. Just a kind of a psychological one and a quantitative one at the same time.
Well, it's kind of like, the boss says, did you ask for a discount? Yes, I asked, and they said no. But I asked, or you say, yeah, I remember one of my, I was teaching at a corporate account, and again, after they learned this life skill called negotiation, is they went into a major account, quoted $250,000. He says, well, can I have a discount? And he gave him $1,000 off, $1,000 off. But, tick the box, ask for a discount, got discount. You don't have to say how much. But I was just flabbergasted that he got $249,000 and, everybody was happy. So again, ticking the box, again, that's the whole thing with, as we know, sales and marketing. The challenges depends on who you're dealing with. But the no free gifts is like, don't offer, if they want a massive discount, if they you said 15 and they go, hey, I only got 5. But if you've got like 5, there's like say 5 parts to your proposal, you go, for 5, I can do 2 of those.
Yes.
Because that again is don't give away the $15,000 package for $5,000 because you're going to lose money and you lose credibility,
Yeah.
And I think
that loss of credibility is a big issue too, right? As soon as you buckle, and I like that answer that you just suggested about, I can do out of the 5, I can do 3 of them, or whatever. And in my world, it kind of translates to, sure, I can do it at that price. What would you like me to take out? Like, and that then you're not compromised. Your credibility is not compromised, and you are acquiescing and giving them something that they're asking for, but you're saying you're not going to just get me to lop off a straight $2,500.
That's
whatever.
right. I mean, in your case, if you're rewriting a website, it's kind of like, okay, I quoted you on 25 pages. So what 5 pages do you want me to rewrite? Or 10 pages you want me to rewrite. So you get to pick. It gives them the choice, it gives them the onus. The other thing is if you break down a major project into small steps, is they get to work with you, see the value you bring, and then the next 5,000 comes a lot faster and easier. And eventually it just keeps growing. So it's one way to get your foot in the door. It's like when they only have $5,000, sometimes you have to work with their limits. But again, like you say, what do you want me to take out? Because I can't deliver all that. And that's the no free gifts. You don't give away everything. One key phrase, which I found, especially when you're negotiating something that's a little nebulous, that's a lot of us selling services or software or apps or customized systems, is like, was this included? And if you're not prepared for it, you usually say, yes, that was included. Yes, even though you can't specify everything in certain solutions. I always like to say, yes, I can do that for you. And then you kind of pause and you say, but it's going to cost you more. because I don't believe that was part of our original deal. So you
Yeah.
always say yes, but it costs more, because that, first of all, everybody will take anything you give them for free.
Yeah.
As you well know, right? but if you say, yeah, we can do that, but it's not part of the original deal, it will cost an extra 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, then it's like, okay, how important is it to that client?
Mhm.
You know, is it just a nice to have? Is it like, oh, if I need more money, I got to go back to my boss, I got to ask for more money, I got to ask for permission? It's like, oh, forget it. It's a nice to have. No, I don't know. You know, and part of it, I always like, even when I was negotiating for myself, I will say, well, I got to go back and talk to the team, or I got to go back and talk to my boss, even though I am the boss. But it's good to have, if you get flustered, it's like, I'm not really sure. I need to think about this, before I come up with a firm, because I think most of us, will do a handshake kind of deal. If I agree to a deal verbally, like that's pretty much committed. So always have, like, don't feel, if you're feeling flustered and you're feeling like, oh, I'm giving away the, you need time to think, just take the time,
Yeah, because it all does build to your credibility. They're used to having someone probably, in another situation, acquiesce and give them what they want, right? As soon as you start saying, hey, I have to think about, especially that, I really like that approach. I have to think about it, but it shows that you're running a serious business, I think.
That's true. Plus it gives them, if you're saying, okay, what do you need? What do you want me to take out of my proposal? Let them think about it, rather than just off the cuff going, oh, we'll take 1, 2, 3, but really 4, 5, 6 is more important, and is probably strategically, because that's the, here's like 4 steps to negotiation. First of all is being really clear on your value and confident that if you're saying I charge, $2,000 an hour, it's like, that's my going rate, which I wish, but anyway, but it's knowing your value, knowing what you bring to the table, and going, this is what I'm worth, because I bring, if I charge you 5,000, I'm going to bring you 10, 20, $50,000 worth of business, helping you negotiate better. So it's knowing, and also it's knowing your target. Like if you're negotiating, I always love the story of one of my students who, I benchmark on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are they with selling? And he was on a negative scale. Like, 10 is like love to sell, 1 is hates or doesn't know much. And he was on a negative. And halfway through my class, 8 weeks into the class, he not only got a sales job, but he negotiated $5,000 more on a starting salary, which was part of getting the job. They didn't want to hire any salesperson who didn't negotiate their initial contract. So really important to know that, right?
Yeah.
Again, have a strategy. Again, if you're going into a fairly major, 6-figure plus contract, have a strategy of how you're positioning this, because it can make or break it. If you're into like a 12-month contract, you want to make sure that you're getting well paid, well compensated, and that there's money left over that will help fund, the next 12 months as well. And finally, what really most entrepreneurs and most business owners don't do is practice. Again, it's the mouth memory. So if I say, hey, Gerry, we talked about how I can help you, and the package price for the next 12 months is $36,000. How does that sound? He's nodding. Hey, everybody saw the evidence. I got a contract, right? So it's like, I got to say those words, because if I come out and say, well, Gerry, what do you think about, maybe, 1,000 a month, 12, because if I'm just winging it, which, most entrepreneurs do, and I've got a slide for that coming up, it's again, a lot of negotiation is being prepared, being that, the Boy Scout Girl Guide of being prepared. Well, most of it starts with your mindset of knowing your value, knowing what you want to ask, knowing what you're worth, and just starting more than that. Think big, ask for more. Again, for some reason, really, there's no difference asking for $1,000 a month or 5,000. It's again, it all comes down to your confidence of feel what you're worth. And if you've got a track record like Gerry and I have, decades of professional sales and marketing experience where we've brought in the business, we've shown others how to market themselves better, to bring in the leads and convert those leads into paying clients worth tens of thousands of and millions of dollars, then we're worth a lot of money. Because 40 years ago when I graduated, I certainly did not have the skills that I have today or the experience. And again, what I just did this workshop on negotiation techniques, and a lady who'd been in business for quite a while, she just offers a discount right from the start. If you're a referral from a friend, well, you get the friends and family discount. It's like, no, they're not part of your family. They're friends. I mean, do how often do you get asked for a discount, Gerry? I mean,
You know what? I don't get often asked. Usually, if I get asked, if that comes up early in the conversation, I'm usually looking to get out of the conversation very quickly. I'm not interested in anybody who doesn't appreciate the value that I bring. I mean, that may sound a little conceited, but if somebody's asking about price, I mean, I couldn't possibly know a price or give a discount or anything without knowing more about the about their particular situation. But as far as giving a discount, it doesn't happen a lot because I preempt it. By making sure they understand the value that I offer. I often will include, like, a lot of people don't really understand the difference between a content writer and a copywriter. And a copywriter writes to kind of make the cash register ring, whereas a content writer produces all this content, blog content, and it's all of value, but it doesn't sell anything. So I always make sure they understand I'm a copywriter first, and I also make sure they know long before as a copywriter, I worked in sales.
yeah,
So I'm a copywriter that knows how to sell, and that usually, coupled with some of the results I've been able to produce through the years, that usually makes them see that I will never be a cost. Like my services will be self-liquidating. So I try and present it like that before it even comes up.
that's great. Yeah, because if they're shopping around for price, it's kind of like you get what you pay for, right? And
Yeah.
if that's what you want, then you're not my client. Because I always figure out is if they're a pain to deal with before that you're a client, they're going to be even more of a pain
Almost
after.
for sure.
They're not worth that. I still remember one of the first lessons at IBM was like the best sale is the one you walk away from because they're can I say this? They're not fun to deal with. I have this A word in my mind, but I don't want to say it. But yeah, it's just, when they're jerks, when they're like, I always think of Kevin O'Leary. I'm like, I win, you lose kind of negotiation. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, that may work. That may work now. But like a lot of these people that are like that come off as that, and our friend Grant Cardone, you hear these people talk and you go, in what world would that possibly work? Now, maybe you have used a much softer approach and a more professional approach to get to where you are today, and now you think it's cool to come off like that, but not a chance. You, without some great connections, got people to come to your offer and accept it using that approach where you're bullying them and acting like this arrogant sorry, I almost said
SOB.
it. There you go. Yes.
Yeah. I always think about the sustainability of the business. Is like, well, how do you sleep at night, taking advantage of others? When you do that hard-nosed technique of sign on the dotted line and you hold them to a contract where they're not getting value, like, seriously, like, are you that desperate for money that you have to coerce people into working with you or paying you, even though you get no value? Because that's really, you spoke to my number 2 point, which is sell the value first, then talk price, because then they understand what you bring to the table. And it's like, I'm an investment in your future. If you invest $10,000, I'm pretty sure it's going to be giving you that back every month in leads that you can convert. But the biggest I always say is like you got to start. If you have a list price, like if you're in more retail, you have a list price, you start there. You don't start discounting unless they ask. And then it's like, no is a complete statement, is a complete sentence, is that and if they say, can I have a discount, you can go, why? Tell me why, and then you can say, no, because unless you buy 5 or more,
buy 10 of them. That's exactly right.
Sure. Again, don't concede too quickly. Don't give them too many details where they get confused, because remember, confused and bored people don't buy. And if they ask the price, then give it to them and shut up, right? I mean, you answer the question, so go for it. There we go. So most entrepreneurs and even a lot of professional sales, they really don't understand the value that they bring. It's not your certifications. It's not your job title. It's not your company's reputation. It's like, what have you done for others like me? And show me how that works, I always love to give this example where, honestly, being 10 times more expensive, that's almost made me pack up my bags and leave that meeting. Because when I found out that another consultant was charging $1,000 a day and I was charging $10,000, it's like, whoa, like being twice as expensive, 3 times expensive. I thought I could get away with that, but being 10 times is kind of like, whoa. And I wasn't, so that to me, when I won that deal, it wasn't a huge deal because I usually sold $40,000 courses. This was only a 20 grand one, but I realized I won that on showing value. And that's what made me realize, luckily early in my sales career, that when people see the value, they will find the money, because you just want to make sure that you're comparing apples with apples. And if you can say there's a gap where, hey, there's a reason you're only paying $1,000, or versus going with the world leader in engineering education.
Just before you just move on there, just with the to that point, is a lot of times we assume, we being salespeople / entrepreneurs, we assume people know what we do and the value that we add. Like, they do not. And if you don't tell them, you'll get into a bun fight over price every time, because that's the only thing the prospect has to draw on is, I don't see any difference, Patti, between you and Gerry. So who's the cheaper price, right? So that's our job as salespeople and entrepreneurs to explain why we charge X, and then they can make a fair fair assessment of what's the better buy for $1,000 or $3,000, right? At least they know why, but they don't know the value many times.
That's right. And that apparently there's some horrifying statistic, like 50 to 60% of buyers do not see any differentiation in their suppliers. It really comes down to like, who's cheaper? Because I mean, it's just a commodity. And we know in professional services, we are not a commodity. And if we can't sell ourselves and our expertise and what we've done for others, then we're in trouble. We're really in trouble. And it's knowing the industry, it's knowing your competition, it's knowing where you stand out. Where you and I are both very unique in that we're both sales and marketing experts, and we've sold our marketing. And I think that is key to our success. I know for me is when I had a tech company and I created a multi-million-dollar brand, is that I created that for me to sell. And I started selling it to 25 different countries. And it's still being sold today after 25 years. Barcode systems, who knew? They never go out of fashion. So
it's still getting a little piece of that, by the way. A little royalty coming in every month, or what?
So one of the lessons is, life lessons is, get it in effing writing. Don't rely on honor. Anyways, so I call it, so for again, because we sort of sell the intangible, I call it my Bragg Sheet. Honestly, it's not what I've done, but it's what my clients have achieved with my help, like doubling their sales to 6 figures, making, we could track, they made 20 grand just on one contract. Like that was a huge win. even though because that her client didn't negotiate, I went, oh my God, we left money on the table. But anyways, still 20 grand more than what she initially was going to propose. Like I thought that was a huge win, so you need your own brag sheet, because that forces you, it gives you the opportunity to go back to your past clients and go, what did you get out of working with me? Can you, quantify, what difference I made in your business? So it's a great way to go back, get back in contact and go, so who else do you know that could use my help? Ask for the referral,
Yeah.
So these are some phrases. And again, whether you're buying or selling, these are useful phrases to have. And remember, the key is you ask a question, shut up and let them answer, because that's when they're going to start, so if you've quoted your price and they said, okay, but what else can you do for me for that price? And then you start thinking, what can I throw in that's not going to cost me any money? Like an extra warranty, like an extra year in warranty, or something that's not going to cost you a lot of money. Just even asking, hey, Gerry, is that your best offer? And if Gerry isn't a very good negotiator, he's going, no, it's not. No, it's not. I got some more room. I can give you some more money off,
I was just kidding with that one.
Okay. Another one is, hey, let me think about it, because, I guess we all have like a mental budget of like, okay, I'm not going to decide on the phone if something's more than $10. Cause I mean, I'm just giving an arbitrary number, but it's like, don't impulse buy over $500. Think about it. Talk to people, because who's not had that regretful purchase, right? And again, whether you have a boss or not, just say, I have to ask my boss, right? So, but yeah, what else can you do for me? Is that your best offer? Again, you need to really know, be prepared. Remember the Boy Scout Girl Guide. Know your product, know your value, know your stories of what you've done for others. And that sort of gives you the credibility that you've done this before. You know what you're doing. You could do it for them. Know your competition and speak from the heart. Be open and honest. Like don't say, hey, this is a $10 product, but for you it's $1,000. Like, don't try to scam people, because they will see through you. When somebody says, well, what do you charge? You get on the phone and they go, so what do you charge an hour? It's like, go. It ranges, depends on the project, but how long is a piece of string? Let's talk about before we get into price, let's talk to see if I can help you or not. So try not to answer that before the value and the needs. Like what's your, what is your situation? Tell me, I don't even know if I can help you, or so price is irrelevant at this point.
It just paints you as a professional, right? Like, I mean, they will have people that will throw out a price, right? And, just try and, well, it's kind of, I always think of that as like the tail wagging the dog, right? They don't ask the questions, you ask them, right? And some of them have to do with determining what the needs are. And when you get control of the conversation, well, you've kind of taken control of kind of their whole view of who you are, because there's so many people that will just spit out the price right away without even,
yeah, and they write it down. They go, okay, thanks, bye, and they hang up,
yeah.
right? And then you go, well, thank God, I saved myself all that time. But I mean, sometimes you just got to stop people and go, wait a minute, I'll give you a range. Typically, I charge between 5 and 25. I don't know where you're at. Is that in your budget ballpark? Is that in
that's a fair thing to do too, because you don't want to waste their time and you sure don't want to waste your own. So if I have answered that question before, you never know what the response is going to be like when you say that, because obviously you want to work with that prospect. But the fact of the matter is, I remember an old boss, I could not stand this guy. But he did say, he said to me one time, you want to get a quick no, or you want to,
yes.
like, what you don't want is where you're back and forth and spinning your wheels. You want them to, if they're going to say no, you want to get that no as quickly as you can.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that gives people, or novice salespeople hope is they maybe, or let me think about it and send me more information, and it just goes nowhere. So I like to say is I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste my time. Are we in the ballpark? You know, are you looking to spend this much money? Because if you're not, then I don't think you're my client. So yeah, get that up, you know, so you can do that if you have a feeling it's going to come down to price and it's a low price, right? It's not. So I always say, you know, in a lot of businesses, they don't have a budget. They're phoning around to figure out what their budget should be. So they kind of have a mental budget, you know, is it 500, 5,000, 50,000? You know, it's like, well, it's not 50 or 500. It's not 50,000. It's, you know, 5 to 10 is what we're thinking. We go, hey, I'd love to talk to you, you know? Yeah. That's, you know, the range that, you know, my sweet spot. And I you know, can really justify my value for that price. So then it's like, you've got it in the open. You already know your boundaries, you know? And when you finally get down to doing your proposal and they say, so what's this going to cost me? You say, well, it's $10,000 for all these modules and the process as documented here. It's $10,000. And then zip it. Smile. Okay, we got a deal. You know, you can jump right to the close, but it's you know, basically that's it. You know, again, here's some other useful phrases of, you know, again, whether you're buying or selling, is like, you know, you're gonna have to do better than that. It's like, well, how much better do I have to do? You know, again, when you're back to the 10 and the 15,000, I say, we're gonna have to do better than that, Gerry. It's, well, how much better do I have to do? Well, I got to tell my boss I asked for a discount and I got a discount. So could you do 14? You know, it's like, oh, sure. In a flash, right? Because your bottom is, you know, I once went on it's Caras is a negotiation seminar. It's a 2-day workshop. And I swear I went on that a million years ago, but it has made me more money because they found that if the buyer and the seller have this range of the least that the buyer will or the seller will accept and the most that the seller will pay, when you're in the same range, you will come to an agreement. So it's like, you have to do better. You know, this is my range. Where do you, you know, how much better do I have to do? Again, you asked a question, shut up. So the other one is like, oh, I got $5,000. How am I going to do that? Help me help you to figure out how to start this project, at least, you know? Because, and again, that's part of we all talk about wanting to have this relationship. And if you do have a new business bestie, a BBF, as I call it, a best business friend, if you're establishing that relationship, it's like, okay, I really want to help you. And but I'm not a charity, you know, I'm a for-profit kind of organization. So how can I help you given our limited or your limited resources? And I also have limited resources because for 5,000, this is all you get. So figure out what that is, you know. So these are useful things. And finally, silence is golden. Again, in sales, is getting comfortable with silence. You ask a question, shut up. Watch the person figure it out, going, okay, how much better what am I, you know, because they got to know what they're asking for, right? And I think that is really important. So, you know, be comfortable with silence. And remember, the key, learning how to sell is not a spectator sport. And this is where I always love to say is, you know, the pros and Super Bowl game don't just show up and go, hey, we're going to throw some balls around. Because what they do is practice immensely before the big day. And that's what you need to do. But a lot of sales professionals and small business, they wing it, right? They just stroll in and figure they can sort of BS their way around, but that's not the way to do it. So remember, practice. Find a trusted colleague, find your spouse, your partner, or a friend, but practice. Because the more you say, you know, the proposal is $100,000, the more you get used to that. It's just like, hey, it's $1,000 or $100,000.
Yeah.
We got a deal, Gerry? We got a deal?
Yeah. And just let it sit, right?
Look for the nodding head of like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then you kind of go, yay. You do that in the elevator right on your way down. So anyways, that's it for this week. Anything else to add, Gerry, about negotiation is a life skill. You will use it all the time. It's just, hey, What can you do for me?
And it's all part of the process. I think that's the thing to remember, is it's part of the process and an important part of the process. So don't, you need to practice it and you need to learn how to do it, and not just let things somehow find their way to the end, because they won't. You have to control it.
That's right. That's right. And
Right.
and again, with practice comes less words, becomes your words become tighter. You get more confident. The more confident you are, the more likely you're to walk away with more money. Yay. We all want that, eh?
Perfect.
Yay. Thanks,
Perfect.
Gerry. See you
All
next
right.
week. Bye.
Nice job, Patty.
Thanks.